joining us later. Looks like everybody's muted except for me and Heather. So I'm gonna let her take that reins. And we're gonna talk to you about what our 2021 detox program is gonna look like. Because we think that starting the new year with a little bit of emphasis on your well-being is a great place to start.
Definitely, definitely. So I just wanted to introduce myself for those of you who don't know me or don't know much about me. I'm Heather Williams. I am Dr. Campbell's nurse and scribe and health coach, and I do the thermography imaging here at Campbell Family Medicine. So if you haven't come to see me at some point, come see me, get to know me. I am helping everyone be successful in their detox this year. So if you have any questions during the detox, please use your patient portal and assign it to me. I will help you. So we are going to talk about specifically the liver as one of our detoxification organs, but remember there are others like your skin and your kidneys and the lymphatic system. So your body has different ways of detoxifying, but we're really going to focus
on your eyes and your tears. Tears yes. Contain toxicants too and sweat. So this year, just for those of you, kind of every year I try to pick something that I'm going to spend my continuing education time learning about. And 2021, it's going to be the kidneys. So if you start hearing me talk a little bit more about kidney health and ways to protect your kidneys, it's because I've sort of neglected them for a while. We spend so much time talking about the liver. We only have one of those, but we have two kidneys. So I think I'll spend a little time learning and helping you to make sure that you have your kidneys. I have one patient who had to make the decision to either go on dialysis or to go on hospice. And so that's kind of one of the reasons why I've decided that this is something I need to learn more about. All the risk factors are there when someone is hypertensive, diabetic, carries too much body fat, takes a lot of medications, which are detoxified through the kidneys. They're stressors all on the kidneys, and they can literally wear out. But we can do things to protect them. And one of the things we can do to protect our kidneys is to periodically clear our body of toxic stores. So that's what we're going to talk about today.
Right. So as part of talking about the detoxification process, we're going to spend a few minutes at the front end talking about why and where those toxicants come from. So most of you probably know that we eat a lot of food in our lifetime, 30 to 50 tons at last count. And it's not always clean, and it's a lot for our bodies to process. So it's not just food, though, that our bodies have to deal with. There are so many environmental toxicants and then things inside our bodies, which we're all going to go through as we read through this presentation. And so we need to give our liver a little bit of a break and kind of help support it to detoxify our bodies better. Tracy Harrison has this quote that I just love. She always says, our bodies are doing the best they can in the environment in which we're asking them to live. So let's give them a better living environment. And we're all going to do it together because the group aspect of this makes it a little easier to stick with and get it done. So let's move on here to what are toxins. They're any substance that has harmful effect on the body. And when our GI tracts are not functioning optimally, there's an additional burden placed on the liver, so it has a harder time doing that detox process. And so when there are toxins that exceed the liver's ability to remove those toxins, we call that toxic burden. It's also important to know that toxins are fat soluble. And so they're attracted to the fatty portions of the cells in the body. And our body actually puts toxins away in the fat to protect itself from those toxicants. So there are lots of different sources of toxins in our environment. And the first one we're going to talk about is air pollutants. You think about if you go for a walk anywhere, you're inhaling the pollution that comes out of our cars. If there's any mills or plants in the area where you live that are off-gassing, all of that stuff. You've got to think about that. Those are obvious, but there are inhaled pollutants that you don't see, you don't smell, and so you've also got a lot of that going on that we need to think about. So there's been plenty of studies that show all humans have chemicals in storage. 100% of people have had some level of dioxins, PCBs, xylenes, dichlorobenzenes, and it's important to know that some of these chemicals are very stable and stay with us a really long time. Dioxins and PCBs are potent causes of cancer. It's reported that even 95% of the cancers that we see are caused by diet or environment. And then an EPA study that was done showed that 100% of human fat samples actually contained styrene, which is known to cause cancer as well.
Yeah, and I'd like to make a point about something I just learned recently, which fascinated me, and that was the role of toxins such as these in chronic illness. That we look around our country and we say, you know, we have this epidemic of obesity and diabetes. And we've had obese people in our country forever, but we've never had the rates of diabetes associated with obesity that we have today. And when you take fat biopsies from patients who are obese and diabetic and look at their fat, there's almost a direct correlation. The people that have very low toxic burden get obese but don't become diabetic. The people that have the highest fat toxin load are the ones who become diabetic earlier in life. So there's something about this toxic burden that dysregulates our hormonal system. It dysregulates our satiety centers. It dysregulates our immune function. And so these chemical toxins are terrible for us in many ways, but wouldn't it be nice to learn for our people who are younger than we are, that if they spend time every day, week, year working on detoxification strategies, that they can reduce their risk of chronic illnesses as well as help control their body composition. I thought that was fascinating.
It really is. And we're going to talk more about that. I have an example later in the slideshow. The next slide just talks more about the dioxins, which is one of those toxicants that Dr. Campbell was talking about. This is one of the ones that I was telling you about that's really very stable. It has a half-life of 7 to 11 years, and it gets absorbed into the fatty tissue. It can cause developmental and reproductive problems, damage the immune system, and cause cancer. And it's in a lot of different chemicals that, you know, are in our day-to-day. So dioxins and PCBs come off of carbonless copy paper, plastic, ink, paint, furnishings, and glues. And then you've got xylene coming from plastics and carpets and furnishings. This is really important stuff if you're remodeling or buying a new home. Something to think about for sure. And then styrene, which I mentioned earlier, it's coming out of our computers, and then the plastics that hold a lot of our different foods. And so that's why later in the program, you'll see one of the recommendations is for us to move away from plastics as much as we can as far as our foods, but especially when our food is hot. So we also inhale a lot of different chemicals. We're talking about the chemicals that are in the air. And I thought this was an interesting point. It just says wearing a newly dry, clean suit can give you measurable levels of trichloroethylene in your bloodstream. So that's inhaling the fumes. And then we're going to talk about skin as well. That's probably absorption through the skin. So this is a map of atrazine in the US in 1997. Atrazine is
Herbicide.
It's an herbicide, but I don't think they use it anymore. So I just thought this was interesting. I put this together last year when I looked at the old slide compared with the new one. So there's a lot more atrazine on the slide, but let me go back and take a look at the the resource down here at the bottom where it tells you the different measurements. They've had to change the way they even measure it to make it work for the illustration. And so most of those on that first one in that key were, this first tiny little yellow box. So I just thought that was interesting as you start comparing. It's not necessarily apples to apples. But as far as the example about hormonal interference, atrazine is one of those that has been shown to feminize male African clawed frogs. So these male frogs are becoming female in the areas where atrazine is.
And I think what's important to know is that when you look at Roundup, right? Roundup is a weed killer. It was supposed to reduce the need for other weed killers. And yet, in fact, all we've seen is more weed killers required because they're getting more and more resistant. So we keep compounding the problem. We use one weed killer and then we add another weed killer and we add another weed killer. And all we're doing is worsening the environmental load, the toxic burden of our environment. In our practice, we call it filling your toxic bucket, right? So the soil in our Midwest, if you think of it as a toxic bucket, it's way overloaded. And yet year after year, this is the part of the country where our food sources come from, right? This is where our corn is grown. This is where our soybeans are grown. So much of our country's and the world's food supply comes from the breadbasket, which is loaded with pesticides, herbicides that we now know cause endocrine disruption.
And we're all laughing because of the fire engine.
We're very close to the hospital, y'all.
Heather, if I can interject something real quick here, and I'll let you guys do this, but you know me, I got to put something in here. Just because atrazine may go away doesn't mean that we're one less toxicant, right? Because if they find that the bugs are super and not responding, or the funguses are not responding to this, or people complain about this, that doesn't mean it goes away. It means they create something else. So it kind of backs up what Dr. Campbell was saying about if they take one away, another one comes right behind it, and it just goes one on top of the other on top of the other.
Mm-hmm. And just because we stop using it doesn't mean it's not found in soil.
Yep.
So this is a lot of information, and a lot of it is like, well, what can I even do about that? So I wanted to just move on to an area where we have a lot more control and talk about that, which is next is in our lifestyle products. So cosmetics, skincare, nicotine, alcohol, caffeine, food, our supplements, and even prescription drugs. We have a lot more control in our day-to-day over these areas of our life. And so it might be easier to start here as we start with food, to kind of start looking around the house and seeing, well, what do I have and how can I make it better, or can I leave this alone for now? So as I said earlier, our skin is like a giant mouth. We're constantly absorbing things and they enter our bloodstream, and some of our skincare products can actually be endocrine disruptors and disrupt our hormone balance, for lack of a better word. And so I wanted to show you this next page has very cool resources for you that you can find on your phone. The Environmental Working Group has something called Healthy Living, and you can actually scan your products and see how they rate. Think Dirty and Detox Me are other apps that do essentially the same thing. And I have found that if the Environmental Working Group doesn't have one listed, then Think Dirty might. And I actually went around my house and scanned my products to see how they rated. And, every once in a while, I'm like, okay, well, what, in what way can I kind of reduce the toxic burden for my body? So I'm not doing it all at once and I don't feel overwhelmed. All right. So the next source of possible toxicants is our water. If you've heard Dr. Campbell go over the fundamentals, you know that the first thing is eat clean food, and then it's followed by drink clean water. And we really want to be doing that because there are pollutants in our water. There's fluoride in our water. There can often be chlorine and things like that that we're constantly swallowing. So typically we recommend filtered clean water, and it doesn't have to be fancy, but our favorite is reverse osmosis. For me personally, it's not been, it wouldn't be a great financial move for me to put a reverse osmosis filter on my entire house. So I just go get it at Whole Foods. It's 39 cents a gallon, not a big deal. And then I get reverse osmosis water in my house, and I know my water's clean and I don't have to worry about it. So next, we're going to talk about the food and our soil toxins. There's artificial food additives, colorings, preservatives, anything that has a label on it. You can read it, and there's all kind of different things. A lot of times stuff you can't even pronounce. Our meats often contain hormones, or there's been antibiotics used, and then that gets passed on to us when we eat the food. Refined foods and sugars, our bodies don't necessarily love that so much, even though our brain really likes that little bump. Then there's some dietary choices that we make, like fast foods or fried foods that are actually not really good for our liver. And then the pesticides, herbicides, insecticides, all that stuff that coats the food that we are then putting into our mouths. So I pulled up the newest environmental working group, Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. I anticipate they're going to update this again for 2021 in March. If you're not familiar, what this is the list of the 12 foods that are most likely to be covered in pesticides. So strawberries is almost always number one on that list. If you think about the way a strawberry looks, it has more surface area, more nooks and crannies for all of those chemicals to kind of get lost in, and they're really hard to clean out. So most of the time what we say is any berries, you're better off buying them organic. And that's the point of this list, because if you buy those products organic, they are less likely to have really nasty pesticides on them. Now, there might be some natural things on there that you need to wash off of your organic produce. So keep that in mind. The other list is the Environmental Working Group's Clean 15. So these are the foods that they deem least likely to be covered in pesticides. And if you have, just a specific budget for organic foods, they're saying these foods, don't spend your money on the organic foods here. So avocados are number one on that list. And typically that's a good rule of thumb. If you are going to peel it to eat only the inside, it's typically okay to get the conventionally grown foods. So let's see.
And of course, those Dirty Dozen, those are the foods Americans eat the most of, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are, if you think about what's on your shopping list, that's probably the produce that you pick the most of. And that's the reason why they are so contaminated, is because there's pressure on the growers to get these foods to market pretty and at highest possible profit. So they spray all this stuff on them to get the most yield from the crops, so that they can get the most money when they bring their produce to be sold. So they're not caring much about the nutritional value or the toxic burden to its customers. As long as it meets environmental standards, which are pretty low bar to meet, they're allowed to sell it. So
I think 3-4 years ago, kale wasn't on that list, to your point.
Right. So now kale's on the list because everybody wants kale. So our general rule of thumb in our house is if it's on the Dirty Dozen and it's not organic, we don't buy it. If I'm at a party and somebody's serving me strawberries, I don't ask. I don't do that every day. I figure one serving of strawberry shortcake at a friend's house is not going to hurt me that much. So I'll enjoy my time and not try to judge the world's food supply, right? I will just choose at home to buy these non-organic and these only organic.
Right. And I will say a hack because most of the berries are on the Dirty Dozen list, is to save money but still get organic, is to buy frozen. And often those particular fruits are fresher frozen because they let them grow a little bit longer before they have to do that flash process and freezing them. And so they have more antioxidants and phytonutrients anyway. And I know for my smoothies, as I do those, I will be using frozen blueberries and frozen, organic strawberries and things like that. So that's a good hack. Save you a little
And
bit more money.
also think about it seasonally, that when strawberries are in season in April, May, and June, then we buy a bunch of them and we can freeze them ourselves.
That's right.
Put them on a cookie sheet and freeze them nicely. So you can, but you have to have freezer space and be prepared.
Right.
But there are some hacks you can do.
So another area of your day-to-day life that you're going to have some control over when it comes to reducing your toxic burden is the cleaning products that you use in your home. And many of us are at home so much more this year than in years past. So it's a good time to take a look at what we're using to clean our homes. Chlorine bleach is a common cleaning product that's actually kind of toxic. There's petroleum, ammonia, and please don't mix bleach and ammonia together. That's terrible. Phenol, cresol, I mean, there's formaldehyde, there's a whole lot of stuff listed there. All of those things, they work great at cleaning, but they leave behind things that can hurt your body. A lot of times we recommend, trying things like baking soda and vinegar, or essential oil type products like Thieves or On Guard, seventh generation brand if you would like that, for your detergent. But like I said, it's a slow process. You can kind of go through the things you normally use in your home and say, how can I make this better, and make that change slowly. But the detox is a really good time to look at all of that you're exposing your body to, because it takes an average of 26 seconds for the chemicals in your household to enter the bloodstream. You're inhaling it, you're absorbing it by touching. If you've touched something and then you started eating, you might be getting it that way. So there's lots of different points of entry for these pollutants to come into our bodies. So as I mentioned earlier, internal toxins are also a problem that we have to be aware of. And the awesome thing about doing this detox is it does pay attention to the gut a little bit, which is where a lot of microbes can make toxins for our body, like yeast, for example, makes basically like an alcohol. So that's something to think about. There's other bacteria and fungi that also create internal toxins. It's just the byproducts of those metabolic reactions that are happening in the body. There's also undigested food. If you've got some GI issues, that if the food is just sitting there in your stomach or in your colon, not being digested, then it's creating like a putrid mess, basically, that your body has to deal with. Stress itself can create internal toxins because you're increasing your blood sugar. Unresolved trauma or abuse can kind of heighten your sympathetic nervous response and keep you full of these adrenaline or norepi type chemicals. And then unhappy relationships also contribute to those as well. Then there's one more slide, I think, that focused on chemicals found in our environments. I just thought this was really interesting. The environmental working group found that there were 20 babies tested their cord blood, and they found Teflon chemicals in the cord blood. And these are babies, they're new to the world, and they're already have toxicants in them. And it just says probably their mothers did. I think recently we found an article showing that there are microplastics now found in placentas and fetal cells and things like that, just to say that there's a lot of different chemicals, and it's starting younger and younger and younger that we are being exposed to them. So for those people who say, well, your liver is supposed to do its own detoxification, it is, but we can support it. We can make it a little bit easier for our bodies to deal with all these pollutants. So there are some signs that your detoxification capacity might be impaired. They run the gamut. It could be digestion issues like constipation, bloating, diarrhea, nausea, heartburn. It could be that you have chronically elevated cholesterol. It could be that you have some weight issues, whether it be over or under, allergies or skin issues, fatigue, dark circles under the eye are a big one that we notice. Issues with irritability, depression, and anger, because the toxicants in your body are going to affect the neurotransmitters and your brain's ability to function properly. You can have blood sugar or hormonal imbalances like we talked about, including things like PMS for women, which that is an interesting story. We had a patient who literally all she did was change her water in her coffee, and it changed her periods. So she thought she was menopausal, and she was drinking tap water, and there are hormones in our tap water. Well, when she switched over to reverse osmosis water, she started having her period again. So it was almost as if she was on birth control with the tap water. It was a very interesting case. Other symptoms: asthma, frequent flus, cold, sinus infections. If you're constantly getting sick, we kind of need to look under the hood and see what's going on there. Muscle and joint pain, fibromyalgia, insomnia, chemical sensitivities. These are all things that can be related to your detoxification process. So this older study from 2006 found that the average American has 116 to 148 synthetic compounds in the body. And that there's a list that they have to review of chemicals, and this was part of that study. And I looked at it back in 2018 before I did the class for the detox, and that number had gone up to 346. So I just thought that was kind of interesting to see that rise in the number. The updated tables in January of 19, they were up to 352, and there's just hundreds of chemicals that we're exposed to. So it's just more fuel for the fire. Why we should be doing this, to begin with. And I've got a link there if you have any interest in looking at those tables and seeing what the chemicals look like right now. So more about why let's detox. We talked about we ingest lots and lots of food over our lifetime, 30 to 50 tons. Most people that have GI issues have an increased level of those incoming toxins, and GI issues don't allow for proper absorption of nutrients, which our liver desperately needs to do its work, and I'll show you that. People develop symptoms different from their underlying cause or true cause because a toxin can get built up in the various tissues and not be eliminated. And then this is kind of what it looks like when people are dieting. They are releasing those toxins from the fat cells, but then they're not telling their body what to do with them to get rid of them properly. And they kind of can have this rebound effect. If you've ever heard of someone who diets and then they lose the weight and then they put that on and then more, because that's their body's response to take care of itself, to protect it. They're trying to put the toxins away in the fat. So what we want to do is support the liver's ability to detoxify when we reduce our fat cells. So that way we can excrete all of those toxins and keep them off, keep that fat off. So as we saw in the beginning, the roles of the liver: it filters blood, it stores glucose for energy, it's going to break down our steroid hormones, it's going to make cholesterol, which most of you know because of Dr. Campbell's deep dive into your labs. The liver also produces and secretes bile, and then it's the primary organ of detoxification in the body, but like I said, it's not the only one. The liver goes through a two-step process. We call it phase 1 and phase 2 for detoxification. And in phase 1, the toxicant actually becomes a little bit more scary. It's called an intermediary metabolite. We need the liver to get from phase 1 to phase 2 so we can get that toxicant out of the body. And so part of what our product that we're going to use for detoxification does is help support that transition from phase 1 to phase 2 so our bodies can get rid of toxins. Y'all are going to be tired of hearing me say the word toxin by the time this is over. So phase 2 of the liver detox is where that intermediary metabolite becomes water soluble, so you can then pee and poop those toxins out. And this slide here kind of shows you've got toxins on the left-hand side, and then what your body needs in phase 1. So that's your B vitamins like folate, B12, your B complex. You need A and D. You need your C and E vitamins. A lot of times we use milk thistle here, calcium and glutathione. So that helps with phase 1. And then to get into phase 2, you need some special amino acids, some sulfur-based compounds, and some cysteine to help work through that process. All right, so now we have to talk about pooping. It's very important. Pooping is everything to detoxification, because if you're constipated and you're detoxifying, it's all just sitting in there getting reabsorbed. We have this problem a lot with hormones, and we want to avoid that from happening. So let's see, skip that. So let me go back and say this about pooping. If you are having trouble pooping, which can happen when we change our routine and do something like a detox, or if you're one of those people who poops because they ate, and the first 2 days of the detox, we don't eat as much, so you may not be prompted as much. Things to try: drink your clean water, half your body weight in ounces. That's going to help loosen things up and get things coming out. You can do a warm, caffeine-free herbal tea. Sometimes that warm beverage is all your bowel needs to kind of cramp a little bit and start excreting. Warm water with lemon or lime juice. But if you're going to do the lemon or lime, please use a ceramic or glass container. Please don't use plastic. And then use a straw to protect your teeth, because the lemon and lime can actually erode the enamel on your teeth. And y'all know Dr. Campbell is serious about your teeth. Taking a walk is a good way to promote going to the bathroom. Using a squatty potty that brings your feet up so you're in more of a squat position to go to the bathroom, which is a more natural position to do that. Doing some deep breathing exercises. And then for supplements, you can use either fiber supplement, or you can use psyllium powder, something like that. And then magnesium. Magnesium is most of our favorite. We have OptiMag in the office, and it helps us tremendously to go to the bathroom. So during a detox, we tend to take a supplement holiday, but most people don't skip their magnesium just because it's so helpful to make you poop. So the next couple of slides basically tell us that toxins deplete necessary detox nutrients. So the slide I showed you with the liver and all the nutrients the liver needs to do this, those toxins deplete the nutrients. But it's not just toxins that deplete nutrients. It can also be any medications or over-the-counter medications that you're taking. They also deplete nutrients. So if you are prescribed a medication, we don't want you to stop it, but we do want you to be aware that this is something that is happening. The biggest example that I can think of is a lot of patients are taking statins for their cholesterol. Our patients don't necessarily take, big giant doses of it, but some of them do need it. And it's important to know that it can deplete your body of CoQ10, some B vitamins like folic acid, maybe iron. And so we recommend that our patients take their statin with a CoQ10. There are other drugs like antacids. They deplete your body of B12, folic acid, and most minerals. And then oral contraceptives. So many people don't know about this one, but that one depletes most of the B complex overall, as well as magnesium. So there's my favorite book for this. If you're curious about what your medication specifically depletes in your body, is called Drug Muggers. It's a really good resource, so you can learn more about that. So like I said, please don't stop your medication, but just be aware that you may need some support so that way your liver can do the work that it needs to do. So let's actually talk about the program. The program that we're using is called Core Restore by Orthomolecular, and it is a 7-day program that's designed to help you restore healthy detoxification and elimination. We're going to give the body what it needs with the essentials. So that's micronutrients, phytonutrients, and clean protein. And it may help you unmask some underlying GI issues. So if you come out of that with those, reach out to us so we can do that deep dive and get to the root cause. The program goals are to remove all those extra toxicants that are in your life. And that is why during the program, we do 2 days of no food except for our medical shake. And then that's followed by an elimination diet. And I have a handout if you need help, if the book is not enough, because the program does come with a book. It's inside the box, and it helps you know what to eat and what not to eat. But I also have another handout if that'd be helpful. Like I said, just reach out to me in the portal. We're going to restore, we're going to support processing and elimination of toxins. We're going to do that by drinking clean water, eating detox-friendly foods, and doing the Core Restore powder mix. And then we're going to revitalize the liver's detoxification pathways, support GI function by continuing those things, drinking purified water, eating detox-friendly foods. We're going to do the powder, but then we're also going to take the PhytoCore capsules, and I'll show you what those are in just a second. So this is what the kit looks like. You get the Core Support canister that has the shake mix. You get the Alpha Base, which is your multivitamin, and then you get PhytoCore, which helps support the liver even further in the process of detoxification. So the Core Support shake is 15 grams of protein. It's got 5 grams of fiber. It does have a little bit of bentonite in it, which is something to help absorb toxins and help move them through your body. It's got support for each of the phase 2 pathways. It's got things like veggies and green tea and rosemary, alpha lipoic acid, and acetylcysteine, which helps create glutathione, which is the master antioxidant in your body. Then we have the Alpha Base, which, like I said, is your multivitamin. A lot of our patients already take this multivitamin, but it has everything that your body needs for phase 1 and phase 2 detoxification to help support that pathway. And then we have PhytoCore. It's got lipotropics like methionine, choline, and inositol. It's got some dandelion, some yellow dock, and beet leaf. Dr. Campbell knows more about those than I do. Silymarin, which is milk thistle, which helps the liver to just dump all the trash.
So the lipotropics help speed your metabolism and break down fat a little bit faster. And the cholagogues are those that help your liver make bile, because bile is what your body uses to emulsify fat. It acts like dishwashing liquid to help break up the large fat globules into smaller ones so they can be passed out through your poop with hopefully toxins mixed in there. So yeah, Mother Nature was nice to us with those.
Yes. Plants. So this is what your book will look like. It's called Your Patient Guide. And it has the foods that you should include while on the 7-day Core Restore program and the foods to avoid. So that's going to be inside your book. It's also going to go through the getting started phase, as well as a sample meal plan, and actually has recipes, which all of us have done. The recipes in this book are wonderful. You also have the summary calendar. So we're doing this for 7 days, and what you see in front of you is a 28-day calendar. A lot of our patients come back and say, can I continue? Yes, you may. You can keep going, and this has a plan for 28 days. And then this is the handout. I said it's an eat this, not that handout. If it's helpful to you, I'm happy to share it. It goes through the foods that we want to promote and the foods that we want to limit, and just a different layout, basically. So as far as the protocol, for days 1 and 2, we're promoting pooping. If you are not pooping, we don't want you detoxing. We've got to get you pooping first. So if that means increasing your magnesium, increasing your walking, warm water, but we just need to get things moving. So those are prep days 1 and 2. Then on actual days 1 and 2 of getting started, those are your fasting days. So we're not chewing any food. You're just using your shakes twice a day. And that can be breakfast and lunch. It can be breakfast and dinner. It can be lunch and dinner. Whatever works for you that will help keep you satiated. A lot of us are not used to fasting. And so this can be really hard. And we say if you just can't do it, or if there's a medical reason why you shouldn't go that long without calories, you can either do broth for the in-between meal, if you're just really getting hangry. You could do broth, or you could do a 1 scoop or a half a scoop shake, just a little bit to tide you over. But we really would like you to do just 2 shakes for the day and no additional food, but lots and lots of fluids. Ideally, at this point, you would have already reduced your coffee intake to avoid the headache. But if you haven't, this is part of that process as well. I posted in the Facebook group, that it was time to start weaning. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, we can help get you into that. We kind of just band together and help support each other through this there in that platform. Now, in days 3 through 7, we are going to start eating. You still have to do 2 shakes per day, but then you can have meals around that. Now, there was some confusion last year, I think, about whether it was 1 or 2 meals. Honestly, 2 meals is a lot of food to go with your shakes. If you absolutely have to have those meals, you can. But we're just eating really clean food on the elimination diet. So this is the same thing, just with a little bit more. I did not mention on days 1 and 2, the days that you are fasting, you are going to go ahead and start taking your multivitamin, which is called Alpha Base. You'll take 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. And then days 3 through 7, when you start eating, you're going to add 2 PhytoCore, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. All right, so our hope is that you're going to feel better. It's kind of like changing your filter. There may be a happy side effect of weight loss. We want to help release those stored toxins and benefit the entire body. So now, are there any questions? You'd have to unmute yourself and just speak up.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
I did have a question on the reverse osmosis. Does that pull the mineralization out of the water?
It does.
So you have to remineralize.
You have to remineralize. Hopefully you're getting enough servings of fruits and vegetables. If you're getting your 7 to 9 servings of veggies a day, you're getting plenty of minerals in that regard. But I do supplement with minerals. I take a Minrex capsules every day along with extra zinc and extra magnesium. So because I drink RO water at home.
You already have plenty of that anyway, so I guess I should be good.
Yeah. Keisha wanted me to point out that for some people, the Alpha Base supplement, the multivitamin, is just a little bit energizing because it has a lot of B vitamins to support your detox pathways. And she finds if she takes it too late in the evening, she has trouble sleeping. So rather than morning and evening, she does it morning and afternoon. And that way she doesn't have any trouble with her evening time being compromised.
One other thing I will mention, if you're not used to taking multivitamins or multivitamins with this much B complex to it, is it will turn your urine bright orange. So don't be alarmed if that happens. You will smell like B vitamins when you pee. That's all okay. But if it's something that doesn't look, smell, or feel normal to you, then reach out to Heather, and her email is right there on that screen, healthcoach.cfm@gmail.com. We'll get you handled and make sure your questions get answered.
By the way, it doesn't mean you've wasted those B vitamins.
Correct.
They did a lot of work all the way through your circulation, through your kidneys and out your bladder before you peed out the residual. So they are working for you. You did not waste them, I promise.
What's considered a successful day of pooping? 10
At
times,
least
5
1
times?
up to 4.
Whoa. Okay, so, and if you're already doing that,
You're
Then you
good to
don't
go.
need a prep day.
do
And
what?
it's important to know too, Gary, that detox is exactly that. So one of the ways Heather mentioned to us that we excrete toxins is through our waste, through our poop. And so by taking the
Mhm.
vitamins and changing the way you eat and then using the phytocore to help stimulate proper detox, it will change the way your poop looks and smells. So just know that that is a probability. If you are a normal pooper of 2 to 4 times a day, that may increase for you once you really start getting into this detox. Like I said, if you have anything that doesn't feel right to you, let us know and we'll happily guide you through. But be prepared for changes, that's for sure.
Peggy, you raised your hand.
So a lot
Oh, sorry, Gary.
excuse me. No, I was just saying, a lot of things that are on this, I'm already doing, so I'm just curious. So just get off the other stuff I'm doing completely and just do this, right?
Yeah,
Unless-
follow your guidebook.
Yeah, our general rule of thumb is if you have a supplement that you know you must take because without it you don't feel well, continue those supplements. If you have a supplement that you take because it's good for you, it supports anti-aging, it reduces the risk of a future condition, then those we can hold off for 7 days. For me, I will not stop my Optimag. If I don't get to take my magnesium, I won't sleep well, I won't poop well, and I'll have leg cramps at night. So I take my magnesium religiously, and now I poop on clockwork, I sleep like a baby, and my legs are happy all night long.
Right.
So
You
I
gotta
won't.
keep, like I am, as a diabetic, that's a big thing for me, so
Right,
I
so
take
you
it at
continue
night.
all
but
those
that's
things.
all those things. And extra potassium, yeah.
Right. All right, Peggy, what was your question?
I was wondering about the vitamins and supplements we take to prevent COVID. So, for instance, the vitamins B, C, D, the zinc, and the melatonin. I think that's all. Oh, and the homeopathic pellets.
Mhm.
And I may have missed one. I don't know.
Well,
But
we've never
what
done a
about the-
detox during a COVID, during a pandemic before.
Nope.
And so this is a judgment call and there's no real right answer to this. My feeling is probably on my 2 fasting days, I won't take them. But then on the other days, I'll probably add them back in. And it's just a judgment call, but because I, especially my zinc that I take and my vitamin C, if I don't take them with food, they kind of upset my stomach a little bit. I don't think a shake's going to be enough to keep that away. So I'll
Okay.
avoid my COVID supplements on days 1 and 2 and pick them back up the rest.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Other thing to remember is Alpha Base is a multivitamin. So it does have some of these things in it. I'm just going to pull up the product sheet and take a look here. Alpha Base has a little bit of folate. It's got some B12. It has 500 milligrams of vitamin C. So if you're one of those people who doesn't need a lot of vitamin C, like Dr. Campbell, that might be enough. But some people need 3 and 4 grams a day. So it really just depends on you. And that's what's so cool about functional medicine. It's the whole N of 1. You know, we figure out what you personally need. Alpha Base does have 10 milligrams of zinc in it. So you'll still be getting some on those 2 fasting days. It's got A, it's got 1,000 IUs of D. So you have some coverage there. So just keep that in mind when you're making that call.
And I think it's important, Heather, that we mentioned, because I remember this being an issue from last year, is that patients thought that fasting days meant nothing, right? That they were doing what was in the book. And we want to stress and reiterate herbal teas, your water, keep yourself hydrated, because that's going to be key. Not only that, the more you drink, the less hungry you will be. So it helps keep that hangry sense away.
It does. It's very important to stay hydrated. Very, very important. And then remember, it's not nothing. You'll still get your shakes. And so let's talk about what goes in the shake. You may use water, but I will tell you, most of us use a dairy-free milk to have a little bit more calorie count for that time. I like coconut milk for mine, so I will use coconut milk. If you're one that cannot stand the flavor, or you just need a little bit more to get you through the day because you're not used to fasting, 1/4 of a cup of berries will sometimes be enough to add some flavor, make it more palatable, and just help you get it down. As far as the elimination diet, are there any any burning questions about what that looks like? You're going to get a shopping list in your book. It's going to help you with what you can eat and what you can't eat. But are there any burning questions right now about what we're allowed to eat?
Heather. This
Yes.
is Peggy. About the coconut milk or non-dairy milk, a lot of those have extra stuff in there, like gums and I don't know what all's in there.
Mm-hmm. So I will tell you, for me, my compromise is I buy the organic coconut milk in a can, and then I water it down with 2 extra cans full of water, and I blender that up, and that is my coconut milk. That's how I make it. So there is it's coconut and water, and I think it might have a little bit of guar gum, but it has a lot less ingredients than anything that you would buy in a carton or anything that you would buy from the refrigerated section of the store. And so I do that, and that's my coconut milk for the week that I use to make my shakes.
Okay. I did read somewhere, I don't remember the brand, but there is a coconut milk that is 2 ingredients, and you have to order it because none of the local stores carry it, but it might have been Native something or other.
That sounds right. That or Pacific something.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Is anyone excited?
Yay!
I am. It's time for some cleanup.
We need a fresh start to this year, don't we?
Yes.
Hey, Heather.
Yes.
So I am sold. So go ahead and sign me up since I didn't get that email.
Okay.
But we'll have to chat about what all I should be doing and besides that.
Yes, we will. Do you want chocolate or vanilla?
Absolutely chocolate.
Okay.
Greta.
That's funny.
Yeah, this brand,
Native Forest.
organic coconut milk, is coconut milk and water are the only 2 ingredients.
So let's talk about start date. So we do this as a group because it's very encouraging for all of us, and it just helps to have some support. But not all of us are built to say start tomorrow. Some of you still need to pick up your kits. Some people need to go grocery shopping and make a plan. Also, tomorrow I'm not in the office, and I can just tell you, I don't fast well on days that I am not at work. I need to be at work and be distracted by all of you lovely people, so that way I'm not worried about food. So please take into account how you are and what you know about yourself to make this a more successful experience. If the fasting day is best on the weekend because you don't have any distractions, then let's plan for that. But let's do what you know will work best for you. I personally am going to start Wednesday.
I'm starting tomorrow.
When can we pick up our kits?
They're here and ready. You can pick them up anytime.
Okay, thanks.
Well, not today. It's after 4.
Right.
So when we get there, because of all the restrictions, can we just call you and have you put it out, or how are you doing that with the pickup?
However you coordinate it with Keisha.
Yes, we've done it all these ways. We have brought it out to your car. We've put it on a tray out on the front porch. You've prepaid for them and come in and picked it up in a bag with your name on it, or you were driving past and just remembered that you hadn't gotten it. So you pulled your car in, got out, talked to Keisha, picked it off the shelf, paid for it with a credit card. The best way for Keisha is to send her a portal message ahead of time so she can have it ready. And ideally even prepay for it. And then it's all done and we just need to get it to you.
If you've already got our credit cards that you use for billing, can it just be billed to those credit cards? And how much is it? We haven't heard that.
Let me look.
It's a $129.99 plus tax for the box.
So that brings it out to
Okay.
$139.09 total. And can you,
Put it
Keisha,
on
can
the
you
credit
bill to credit
card,
cards on
you-
file?
Keisha,
Don't
you're
know the answer to
muted.
that question. Can you type?
Sorry, she's trying to talk and we can't hear.
Yes, if the card's on file, she can charge it.
She has no
Okay.
mic.
Any other questions?
If you would like to be added to the Facebook group, I think I sent everybody an email link that registered, but yep, thank you, Greta. But if you didn't get it, let me know because I'd love to add you. And like I said, it is a place where we vent. It's a place where we share menu and meal ideas, where we all check in with how we're doing. You remember, like, the CFM is a family, so we're all in this together. And if you need support, if you want to talk about something you're feeling that maybe you wonder if somebody else is going through, that's a great place to put it because it's a private group. It's only CFM members that are in that group.
Right.
The only other person I think is the orthomolecular rep. So the guy who makes the kit, he represents a company and he's in there too.
I think most of the complaints are about the coffee headache. So if you can start weaning, start weaning. Avoid that headache.
Yes, yes.
Peggy, did you have another question?
Yes, can we drink sparkling water?
Yes.
Okay.
As long as it's as long as it doesn't have any sugar in it.
Right.
No, this is just, I'll check what it's got in it. And for the herbal teas, if the box says or it calls it herbal tea, then it's okay, right?
Mm-hmm. We're
Okay.
just trying to avoid caffeine because caffeine does stress the liver a little bit because it has to use one of those pathways to be neutralized.
So
And
it doesn't,
caffeine stays in
What
our
about
bodies for
ginseng?
several hours.
so it doesn't really have to be herbal tea. It just has to be caffeine-free tea, correct?
Yes, it's just that the teas that are caffeine free, like they've been decaffeinated, are more processed because they have to strip the caffeine out. So it's a more processed product.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
I can tell you if they're anything like decaf coffees, there's some pretty nasty chemicals used to take them out.
Yes. And a good substitute for coffee is chicory root. Natalie, that's her favorite substitute. Just to have that, it's for the ritual, right, Natalie?
Yeah, it is. It's because I have that thing of holding a warm cup of beverage in my hand in the morning while I'm getting into my morning routine. So yeah, that's what works for me.
What about ginseng?
I don't think so. And I think honestly, you would find, I mean, you're going to be energized with what's already in the product itself. And I think that may be a little too much.
If I had it in a green tea, I have green tea with ginseng, which I like, so I'm just curious. Okay.
Does your green tea, does it have caffeine?
No,
Probably.
well, what does ginseng
What's naturally?
promote is it a same type of stimulant? But I
Right.
don't know that it is. But it's
Take a
not
picture and
caffeine, I
send it
don't
to
think.
me, Gary.
take a picture of your product. We'll try to evaluate on a one-on-one basis and see if we think it's all right.
The last thing I want to tell everybody, because it looks like we're out of time, but the last thing I want to tell everybody is if you're in these first 2 days and you're like, I just can't do it. Don't give up. Don't feel like you're going to fail, right? That's when you reach out to us, because if you absolutely feel like you can't do it and you have to eat, or Gary, in your case, if your blood sugar keeps dropping, then we need to do something. There is a solution. There is a remedy. And if it means that we give you something to eat that's the lowest toxicant load possible, that's organic, that's probably green, then we find an option for you. What I don't want is for you to say, this is too hard and I can't do it, and then you give up. CFM family doesn't give up. We lean on each other. So let us know if you find yourself in that predicament, because we are here to help you through this.
I gotta say that the broth in between, occasionally, if you need it, is very helpful. It's like it plays a trick on your brain or something. I don't know, but it helped me a lot last year. That is all.
Awesome. All right,
Yes.
let's get a big
Love it.
woohoo, because we're going to do this. Woohoo!
I'm excited.
I am too.
I'm kind of ready to leave the toxins of 2020 behind me, so to speak.
Amen, sister.
Get rid of all of that. All right. Well, it's been fun talking with all of you, and I hope to see you on the Facebook page or in the portal. Please reach out.
Take
Bye,
care,
everybody.
everybody.
Happy New Year.